I'm Hannah Kaplan, and this is the WCS Wild Audio Podcast, where you'll find reported audio stories covering the latest news and newsmakers from the Wildlife Conservation Society's Global Conservation Program, Zoos and Aquarium, and their many partners. We've got a great show today, so let's get to it. Coral reefs are facing unprecedented pressure from overfishing, pollution, and climate change. But scientists are finding that some reefs are more resilient than others, and that protecting those reefs could shape the future of coral conservation worldwide. The Wildlife Conservation Society has developed a new strategy focused on identifying and safeguarding those places of resilience. Nat Moss has the story.
Around the world, coral reefs are experiencing repeated mass bleaching events, driven by record ocean heat, with less time to recover between each shock. To learn more about the current threat and what WCS is doing in response, I wanted to talk to Director of Coral Reef Conservation, Emily Darling, who I spoke with for the very first episode of this podcast back in 2022.
That last time we talked, we were on a bleaching event. We're still in a bleaching event. That's what the data are showing. That's what the coral reefs are showing underwater. Bleaching is happening more frequently, more severely, but most importantly, the recovery windows between these bleaching events are shrinking.
Emily cites statistics from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, suggesting that the scale of that heat stress is now global, affecting reefs in nearly every ocean basin.
At last count, NOAA estimates that 84% of the world's coral reefs have experienced some level of too hot temperatures, leading to bleaching.
But the new WCS Coral Reef Conservation Strategy starts from a crucial distinction. Bleaching does not always mean loss.
Not all those corals die. Hot temperature and bleaching is not always a death sentence for corals. There are places where corals can avoid bleaching. There are places where they can bleach but resist and survive through it. There are places where they can bleach, die, and then recover and come back and not just reseed their own reef, but the reefs nearby.
Those three scenarios comprise marine systems Emily describes as climate refugia. In the new WCS strategy, they're called high-integrity climate-resilient coral reefs, or HICOR, and identifying them is the first goal in the strategy, to understand what's happening.
These three types of climate refugia are so critical to understand, and that's why they're at the heart of our coral reef strategy for WCS, which focuses on high ecological integrity, climate-resilient coral reefs, finding those around the world.
The new strategy marks a shift in approach. Rather than trying to protect every reef equally, WCS is prioritizing reefs with the strongest ecological foundations, those most likely to endure climate change and help surrounding reefs recover. Understanding where those reefs are and whether conservation is improving their resilience depends on consistent underwater data.
Seeing how coral reefs are going to survive climate change means you need to see the reefs, you need to see the corals. Satellites can't see living coral, it can't see through the skin of the ocean, it can't count fish. And those are key points to ecological integrity.
That need led to the development of Mermaid, a global coral reef monitoring platform now used by scientists and conservationists in more than 50 countries.
Mermaid is one of the world's largest coral reef data platforms. It's a way for coral reef scientists to enter their data and then use it to accelerate conservation action. It's used by over 100 organizations in 52 countries. It's a whole package from being able to enter your data using just a few keystrokes, to analyzing it with AI, to seeing it on a global dashboard. But our goal is really how do we get data into action? And Mermaid is part of this pathway because the world's coral reefs needs this action so quickly.
Once priority reefs are identified, the strategy's second goal is to protect or safeguard these corals using multiple coordinated interventions that reduce threats and strengthen resilience.
For coral reefs, ecological integrity is about functioning coral reefs. It's coral reefs that have enough coral cover, that have enough species diversity, that have enough fish biomass. Now, of course, what is enough? Well, critical science by WCS senior scientist Tim McClanahan, the director of marine science at WCS, showed in a paper that 500 kilograms per hectare is a key tipping point between reefs that are healthy or have integrity and reefs that are not healthy.
Heat is the dominant global threat, but locally, scientists found another pressure affecting more reef area than any other.
We were asked to map the top local pressures to the world's coral reefs. And I was really surprised to find that pollution was the number one local threat faced by the most area of coral reef compared to any other pressure.
That pollution often originates far upstream from agriculture, sewage, and coastal development, linking reef health directly to human infrastructure and planning.
It comes from upstream land clearing, upstream agriculture, sewage, unsustainable development. As sea levels rise, septic tanks are inundated, and that's going to really create more pollution to reefs and people. I've learned all this from my colleague, Dr. Amelia Wenger, who leads WCS's water pollution work. It is so crucial that we include pollution mitigation in coral reef conservation plans.
Given this range of factors that determine coral reef health, the third goal of the strategy is to strengthen collaboration, to connect across WCS teams, partners, and countries so that reef conservation is coordinated rather than isolated.
This was co-created with 70 colleagues in 18 countries across WCS, so it's rooted in both global science and local expertise.
That connectivity matters not just for reefs, but for people. Coral reefs support fisheries, protect coastlines, and sustain livelihoods for nearly 1 billion people worldwide.
Coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean surface, but support 25% of marine life. Coral reef fish are incredibly diverse and incredibly important for food security, for fisheries. Coral reefs reduce 97% of the wave energy hitting coastlines. So as we have more climate-fueled storms, sea level rise, we're seeing stronger and more devastating storms, and having healthy coral reefs provide a natural coastal barrier. And then, of course, there's the culture and livelihoods and income, supported from coral reef tourism, from fisheries. That's so critical. So it's so interconnected.
Despite the scale of the threats, Emily says her optimism comes from what she sees underwater, even on reefs under extreme pressure.
My source of hope is the people I work with every single day. And it's also from the coral reefs themselves. I was swimming around this very polluted reef. It was the end of a long trip in Fiji. One of our last dives was on a reef that was brown. You could see the sediment, the dirt in the water. We were very close to a big river. It was clear from the brown color that, this needed more management upstream, and that's why we were doing these surveys. And so I was feeling really depressed, and that was when I was trying to waft with my hand, some of these sediments off the reef, wave it over, move the water, move the sediment, and it would just fall right back onto these corals. But as I was, ready to just roll up my transect as fast as I could, get out of the water, call it a day, I saw this little tiny damselfish who was, golden tail and a bright blue body, and it was like sequins around his eyes and this turquoise flare, really just putting on the best show as their scales picked up the light. And, he or she was working so hard on this reef. They were defending their little turf patch of algae, and they clearly saw me coming, and they kind of darted up and was like, hey, no, this is mine. Like, off you go, bye-bye. And I just stared at this fish, and I was like, you are working so hard on this reef, and you're not giving up, and you are just believing in the future here clearly, and who am I not to believe in the future? So I think I'm inspired by that little turquoise fish.
For Emily, that persistence captures what the strategy is ultimately hoping to achieve.
Coral reefs are lifelines for biodiversity, for coastal protection, for nearly 1 billion people. With the new strategy, with Mermaid, with this high-level political commitment, we have the science, we have the tools, we're building the political will. What we need now is urgency and courage. If we act together, we can move reefs from decline to renewal and secure them for our future to come.
The new strategy is built on a simple but consequential idea. By focusing conservation where reefs are most likely to endure, if we can work to understand, safeguard, and connect, it may still be possible to slow decline and help coral ecosystems recover. To learn more about the Wildlife Conservation Society's Coral Reef Conservation Strategy, visit WCS.org. For WCS Wild Audio, this is Nat Moss.
Today's episode was produced and reported by Nat Moss, with help from Dan Rosen and Hannah Kaplan. The WCS Wild Audio Podcast is a production of the Wildlife Conservation Society. Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts.